What's up, you guys? I'm going to go through some interview questions. I was asked to do this interview by Miss Kiki Promise, who's a former colleague of mine, a friend of mine, and I want to help out in any way that I can. She asked me to do this interview. I was honored. We're going to knock it out. Let's do it. So the first question says, describe your current position and expertise and experience as an educator. So for me, I've been teaching for 8 years at the same location. I've been teaching 7th and 8th grade, U.S. history for 7th, Louisiana history for 8th, at Northeast High School, right there in that Pride, Cheneyville area. Go Vikings. It's been a joy. I was teacher of the year 2015, coach football, coach basketball, Beta Club sponsor, a little bit of everything, hosted a lot of events, things of that nature. But it's been a joy. It's been something that's really been, impactful in my life in a lot of different ways. It's been way more than just a job. Those are my expertise and kind of my background teaching. Second question says, why is it important to learn about Black history? I think it's important to learn about Black history because it's a part of who we are as Black people. It's a part of who we are as Americans. It's a part of who we are when it comes to an international community as well. I think all races, all ethnicities, and cultures have played a role and a part in developing the world into what it is today, on all levels. So it's important to know that background because it gives you a foundation of where you come from. It gives you an understanding of who you are to this day. In today's society. So if you don't have that foundation, a lot of times your values are kind of all over the place, right? But if you know where you came from, your lineage, you know what type of things your people went through, the different struggles and successes of your people, and really, really, truly understand it, not just know it, it really helps your overall value system and development of your values into your adulthood. Third question, do you feel Black history should be taught in school? Why? Of course. I think that Black history should definitely be taught in school. I think it should be something that's taught throughout, though. I actually had a student ask me in February of this year, why do we have Black History Month and all that? Boom, boom, why isn't it longer and something like that? Because in their minds, and not just in kids' minds, but people's minds in general, especially in today's society, when you put parameters on something, they don't really think too much outside of that. So if you say that this is what we study or we learn about in this month, then that's what they do. Outside of that month, it's hit or miss. You might study a little Black history, you might see something, you might post a little post here and there, but it's not a real big deal outside of it. So I try to teach my students that Black history is something that we teach in school throughout the year. So when we run across or when we have a topic that's dealing with Black history or Black people, we make sure it's a point of emphasis. We make sure that they understand the importance of these people at this time and in doing this event and this topic. So I try not to make such a big focus that, okay, February, that's Black history. I try to teach it to them throughout the year. I don't try to make extra emphasis on the month of February because I don't want them to develop that mentality where, okay, this is the only time that we should learn about it. It should be a continuous thing throughout the year, throughout your life. Because Black history is American history. We're all a part of the history in the creation of this country, and in a large part, the world, and at that international level as well. So I think history is history, to be honest with you. But it should be taught. It should definitely be taught. We're gonna say that. But throughout. Question 4. How should Black history be taught? I guess I kind of answered that, but I'll rehash it again. It should be taught throughout the year. It shouldn't be made as something, in my opinion, is something separate from, just history in general. I'm not a big fan of throwing those labels on things. To be honest with you, I think history is history. I feel like we should value history, for its contributions, to the growth of our country, the growth of us as a people. And when we start seeing it, is that I think it really will help change the perspective of it for my students. Because when I talk to students about Black history, the first thing that they want to know about, or the first thing that they think of, is slavery. That's the first thing that comes out of their mouth, right? And I do spend extra emphasis and time on trying to make them understand that it's more to our culture and where we come from than slavery. So I feel like it should be diverse. It should be really, really, spread out throughout the year is how it should be taught. Um, I think that the kids should not be just taught in February about Black history. I think they should see a variety of different, historical figures throughout the year. Not just Black. You should see, Latino Americans. You should see Asian Americans all throughout your curriculum throughout the year, so that they understand that the world is diverse and it's more than one race, more than two, and that we've all contributed in a way. Question 5. What does Black history mean to you in one word? Explain. In one word, what does Black history mean to me? So in one word, Black history to me means perseverance. That's what I can. Perseverance, because I feel like throughout our history we've ran into so many obstacles, so many tough moments, and so many things that we've had to overcome, to where that without that perseverance, that none of that happens. And you can say what you want about today's Black people, today's society, but at the end of the day, have we grown tremendously in the last 70 years? Hell yeah. I'm sorry. We have. You would be lying if to say we haven't. Is there still room to grow? Of course. But I think that perseverance would be the word I would use, because throughout all those struggles, throughout all those difficult moments throughout life and throughout time in history, we've always, in most cases, overcome, and we've gotten better. So, perseverance. Question 6, what roles did Black people play in historical events to you? What roles did they play? I don't know if I would say a role. I mean, because it seems like when you say what role did they play, it almost like it lessens their value from a historical perspective. I feel like they were a part of it. They are a part of the history that we have. In all historical events, from World War II to Civil War, Reconstruction, slavery. List goes on and on. World War I, Great Depression, Progressive Era. I mean, we've always played a role, whether it was inventing things, whether it was being civil rights leaders, whether it would be starting in new organizations, whether it be breaking color lines. No matter what it was, our role has always been, or our part has always been, I should say, just as everyone else. we've created, we've fought, we've diversified, we've been separated, then brought together again. We've always just been a part of history. I don't want to say it was a certain role that we played, but we've just been a part of history like any other culture and any other group of people. That's how I see it. Because, like I say, I'm a big advocate for not separating us from everybody else. I think that we have a problem with that in today's society, especially from a historical standpoint that we like to say that, oh, this is Black history, this is that history, this is that. No wrong, that's true, but at the same time, it shouldn't be to the standard, to the level where we feel like, okay, that's something completely different from what they do. No, it's in a lot of cases, a lot of things are very similar and the same, in fact. So I think that if we could say it has a role, our role is the same as everyone else in history. We've done great things. We've had some down moments. We've had some good moments, but we have been a big part of history. Question 7. What do you think is the biggest struggle for students in a history classroom from a teacher's perspective as far as Black history is being taught to them now? I'm going to read that again. What do you think is the biggest struggle for students in a history classroom from a teacher's perspective as far as Black history is being taught to them now? The biggest struggle would have to be getting them to understand something outside of slavery. Yeah, especially for me in middle school, like and I've seen it in high school too, like, because we're on a high school campus, I don't necessarily directly teach high school, but I have had some high school classes here and there where I've had to sit in and kind of, get them going. But the biggest struggle is getting them to see Black history for something other than slavery, seeing something outside of that, get them to see those positive things that we've done in history and the great contributions we have made to this country and to this world. And I think that in itself, like the students that I feel like I have really they have gotten that, and they've gotten outside of that slavery concept or mindset and thinking that that's it for Black history, just slavery, slavery, slavery. Once they get outside of that, their worldview completely expands. Like they start seeing opportunities now for themselves that they didn't see before. And that goes back to an earlier question when I was talking about the foundation. Like once they have that foundation set and understand their history and where they come from, a lot of times it really propels a lot of people, not just students, but people in general to new heights. So to reach things that they didn't think were possible before. But getting them to see outside of slavery that Black history is way more than that. That's the biggest struggle right now. All right, question 8. Do you feel that non-Black students will feel differently after learning more in depth of what Blacks encountered if taught about the history? Do you feel that non-Black students, read it twice, will feel differently after learning more in depth of what Blacks encountered if taught about history? I don't have to tell you, I can tell you from my own personal experiences. In class, a lot of times I have, Caucasian students in there, Latino students, boom. Like I always tell my students, if we're talking about a historical concept or historical event, something back in the day, because a lot of the events weren't good, especially from today's perspective, because we know it is now like it was wrong or certain things were not right. Because we have a better understanding, we're a little bit more civilized, we know more. If we talk about an uncomfortable topic and it makes you feel uncomfortable, then it's something that we need to talk about. That's what I always tell them. Like, if you're feeling a little, I don't want to talk about this, then it's what we need to talk about to get through those things. Because history is something to be learned from. It happened. There's nothing we can do about it today to change that past. The only thing we can do is learn from it and continue to move forward to progress, right? Learn from those mistakes to get better. That's like with anything in life. So, for instance, like we were talking about civil rights movement recently in 8th grade in Louisiana and the Baton Rouge boycott. And some of my students were feeling a little, especially my Caucasian students, my white students, they were kind of feeling a little antsy about that one because one of my students was saying, like, oh, no, white people was just racist. One of my Black students said that. And I can understand how they felt a little uneasy in that situation. But I tried to bring them all back into understanding that even during this time, it was not all whites were, racist, or not all whites were the ones, slandering or protesting against or trying to, stop integration in schools. It was not all whites. You had a lot of whites that fought on the same sides as Blacks in those marches that were getting beaten and getting threatened. So once I pointed that out, it was like, oh, she didn't know that. So it's just all about sometimes fighting through those tough conversations and making sure that everybody understands more than anything. And I think that understanding really helps with my non-Black students not feeling so uncomfortable about some of those tough issues or some of those tough topics where some of their ancestors may have done some really crazy or wild things towards Blacks. Just talking about it, really helping them understand and really fighting through those tough conversations, not just running away from it, not just, okay, let's move on to the next thing. No, we need to get through this, okay? I think that's really I think that is the thing that really helps in those tough, topics, on those tough Black and white type topics. But you got to get through them, and you can't run away from them. Long story short, and I think that over time, a lot of my students throughout the year have really, even in that moment recently with civil rights, the young lady who was looking a little weird on it, she continued to be a part of the conversation after that. So I think it really helped. So to answer that question, I know it kind of went on. They do feel differently after learning. I think they have a clear understanding. I have a lot of white students that have grown since. It was like, okay, I didn't know, it was that bad, and now they see, okay, I see why people are kind of like that. I see why sometimes Blacks are a little bit more on the edge when it comes to those racial topics and things of that nature, because it's really a dark history. So they have a clear and better understanding, and they grow from it, Blacks and white students. All right, question 9. In your opinion, why do you think teaching Black history in schools is such a hot topic? And why are districts scared to allow it? I'll read that twice because that's a real big question right now in today's society. Which you got Texas and Florida schools. They make it and passing all these legislations dealing with things that are in the curriculum. In your opinion, why do you think teaching Black history in schools is such a hot topic, and why are districts scared to allow it? So in 2022, right, we know the society that we're in now. Things have changed. We're in such a society where it's everybody gets a trophy. We don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. We want everybody to be happy, everybody to like us. That's the type of mentality we have in today's society. It's a social media type mentality, and it's trickled down to our education system, and when it comes to the administrative level as well. They want to make sure that they're pleasing everybody, right? But when it comes to history, what I have come to learn is that history is not here to please you. History is not here to make you feel good all the time. It's here to teach you about the past. That's it. Now, your perspective of what happened is your perspective, right? But the facts are the facts, right? It gives you the facts. This is what happened. Now, how you see that depends from person to person or who's teaching you, things of that nature. But the facts are the facts. The history gives you the facts, and that is it. The districts are scared to allow this because some of those facts are really, really tough to deal with, right? That's really, really tough to say you're going to be in class teaching about, Reconstruction period and, the black codes and, Jim Crow laws, blacks being hung from trees, things of that nature, like, even whites, freedom riders, bus being bombed and things like that. Like, that's a tough topic. That's going to be hard to digest for some kids that come from some backgrounds and homes where they don't talk at all, right? You got a student that, I had one student, I was like, how often you have conversations with your parents about what you learned today? And then they like, never. Like the only time they really talk is like when they have to go get some shoes or something or something to eat. Or they never really sit down and really have a conversation or talk with their parents. So when they get into class, they don't know how to talk, right? They don't know how to digest information. They don't know how to critically think about something and put forth their opinion about it. They struggle with that, right? So you get kids that are like that, right? And then I put these hard topics in front of them, right? That's some bad stuff, right? It makes your people and your race just look like they just been getting brutalized all their life, right? That's going to be hard for them to digest, hard for them to really take in and really understand the historical concepts on the things that they should take from it. That can be a positive impact on their lives. All they see is that black people are being beaten, being treated wrong. That's messed up. I hate all white people, right? That's how they're going to take it. And my job as an educator is to really transform that perspective, right? To get them to see it in a different way. And I understand that districts are scared for us to teach those hard historical concepts and hard historical events and topics. But it must be taught. You can't hide and run away from the truth. I'm not here to teach my students to run away from the truth. I'm here to teach them to take it head on. I'm here to teach them how to deal with it. I'm here to teach them how to talk through it. I'm here to teach them that your history may be dark in some situations and it's going to be bright in some situations too. But all in all, we're going to take all of that information and all those facts. We're going to learn from it. We're going to build us a strong foundation and we're going to use it to propel us forward in life, right? Because now, even no matter how dark or good it was, you have a foundation now, right? You know where you come from. You know these things have happened in the past so that you don't repeat them. And I think in that is what I'm here to do when I'm in that classroom, right? No matter how scared the district is to talk about those tough issues, thinking that parents are going to give them backlash and all that, I think that that's just preparing our kids or setting them up for failure when we start taking away things that are tough. And that's the social media type network where we live in. Just make sure everything looks good, right? If it's tough, kick it out. We don't need that. But at the end of the day, what are we really preparing them for if we making everything so easy, right? The world is messed up, you guys. It is tough. It is rough. It is, it's going to beat you down. It's going to be a lot more bad things that happen in a lot of cases, I tell my students, than good sometimes, right? But if we learn how to face those bad and tough things now, while you're in school, right? Because it's easier to train a child up than it is a grown man, right? then once you develop that habit over time, every time something tough comes up, Mr. Helms is talking about, we break down, we have these discussions, we critically think about it, we put forth different opinions, we hear different opinions to help build our perspective on it. Every time that happens, right? And then you continue to do that for the next 4 to 5 years, 6 years before you get out of school. Once you're grown, you've developed a new habit now. So before you were just running away from those issues or taking a negative view on it. But now you've developed a new habit. Now you go into adulthood with a new way and a new habit, a new way of handling these tough issues. That's what I'm trying to do to prepare my students. So even if the district is scared, I'm not. So I'm gonna do what I got to do. So that's the last question. Hopefully I wasn't too long, you guys. But I'm gonna talk. I like to go on and on and on. So once again, thank you, Ms. Promise, for asking me to do this interview. It was a pleasure. Hopefully I did good enough. And shout out to SU. I'm an alumni, of course. Go Jags all day. The Southern University. So blessings to everybody in the class. Blessings to your professor. Give her a good grade. And I'll see you on the flip side. And as always, it's grind time.